Hello, I'd like to welcome everybody to the 2016-2017 Faculty and Staff Data Collection Training. I'm Leah Diggs-Natiko, and I'm joined by Ms. Falia Rose, who is the Data Analyst Manager, and by Ms. Lindsay Harris, who is a Data Analyst, and we are with OSSI's Division of Data Assessment and Research. The U.S. Department of Education requires the annual collection of faculty and staff data. The Department of Education uses this data for non-fiscal surveys of the Common Core of data. OSSI uses this data for additional reporting requirements. Within this hour, we will cover the following topics: prerequisites for individuals who are reporting and submitting this collection to OSSI, the changes from previous year's faculty and staff data collections. We'll discuss the 2016-2017 technical guide and template, which faculty and staff do LEAs have to report, and within the guide and template there are 4 sections: faculty and staff roster, teaching curriculum and years of teaching experience, staff member education and certification information, special education percentage of time and ages served. I'm then going to walk you through how to submit a completed spreadsheet to OSSI via the Faculty and Staff QuickBase application. And we will wrap up with tips and reminders and a question and answer period. And the goal is for you to be able to come away with knowing how to use the technical guide and template and how to report and submit your data to OSSI.
In order to complete the 16-17 faculty and staff data collection template and submit it to OSSI, the person who is filling out the form and reporting needs to have access to faculty and staff personnel records and access to OSSI's faculty and staff QuickBase application. If you log into QuickBase and you do not see the faculty and staff QuickBase application icon, then please send us an email to ossi.data@dc.gov, and we will be able to provide you access to that application. The faculty and staff data collection consolidates the full-time equivalent faculty and staff data collection and the certification and licensing information that OSSI collected on faculty and staff. This data collection is only for LEAs who are not part of the DC Staffing Collaborative. If you are part of the DC Staffing Collaborative, then you do not need to complete this data collection. If you would like more information on the DC Staffing Collaborative, please send an email or give a phone call to Itai Mizra, and his contact information is provided on this slide. Also, this presentation is available in your handout portion of the webinar, along with the technical guide. Speaking of the technical guide, it was emailed to heads of school, LEA Data Managers, and faculty and staff point of contact on June 1st. The data collection will run from June 1st through July 7th. If you did not receive the technical guide and template, please send an email to ossi.data@dc.gov. OSSI sent the template and the technical guide to the heads of school, LEA Data Managers, and faculty and staff point of contact that were listed in eSchool Plus. If you need to make sure that your point of contact in eSchool Plus are kept up to date, because OSSI does use this when we communicate to LEAs. LEAs are to report the following faculty and staff as of the 2016-17 enrollment audit, which is October 1st, 2016. LEAs are to report all instructional, administrative, and support staff in LEAs and schools filled by direct hire or by contracting. Long-term substitute teachers that are employed for 4 weeks or longer should be reported in this collection. Contract staff that are contracted directly with the LEA or school and are considered part of regular operations. So these would include school nurses, psychologists, physical therapists, and staff that work with the district or the LEA but are employees of another entity for which the LEAs contract with. Those would include school security personnel provided by a private firm, charter school teachers who are employees of charter school operators. So now I'm going to actually show you what the template looks like, and we're actually going to go through the template. if you received the template, you saved it to your computer. When I open it, you may have to trust the system. It might ask you, before you're able to fully open it and edit it, it might ask you to trust, so you're just going to say that you trust the system, and it will allow you to edit. Once you open the faculty and staff collection template, you're going to see a sample tab, then you're going to see a collection tab and drop-down values tab. The sample tab is provided, and it's all fictitious information. It's provided as a guide for you in case you need to see some different scenarios and how to report it to OSSE. The collection tab is where you're actually going to be inputting your information, saving it, and sending it to OSSE. The drop-down values tab is provided for you to be able to see the permitted values. We're going to walk through this. So the very first section is the faculty and staff roster. Here is where you're going to input your staff member's name, and I'm going to choose fictitious name. And now you see that red is highlighted. So this indicates that this is a required field. Last name is also a required field. Anytime you see the red cell that's been highlighted, it means a required field. So you see first name and then date of birth. And if you continue to scroll, you'll see additional red fields. So I'm just going to start typing middle name. You see it's not, you do not have to select it. But then above you see open text, alias, or maiden name. This is not a required field, but we do ask that you input this information, as it does help OSSE with verifying the credentials for your staff. So we do ask that you do input this information even though it is not required. Local staff ID and date of birth. And up above you see that we have included the proper format. So I'm going to, now again, this is all fictitious. And here you notice that I received an error message because this is not a proper birth date. So I'm just going to pick a different one. Now gender, we have a drop-down menu, male, female. These drop-down menu values correspond to the drop-down values that are in the next tab. Race and ethnicity. Now on to the next section, I see LEA and school information. For your convenience, we have the LEA names already populated in a drop-down menu. And now the LEA code will automatically populate. Now for a school name, you're going to input your school name. If you do not know your school code, OSSE actually provides this information on SLED's website. I'm just going to quickly show you where you can find your school code. So on SLED's website, and it's https://sled.osse.dc.gov, if you go to search and then select school search, under the school directory, you'll be able to find your school's name. The state school ID number is your school code. And this is open text, so you just input that information. And then we have the staff title. Now, I just want to take a pause for a moment because if you notice here, we have a duplicate button. If you have a staff member that is in more than one role or employed at more than one school, you can always duplicate the row so that you do not have to input the same information more than once. So I'm just going to go ahead and double-click duplicate, and it's going to ask me the number of duplicates. So I'm just going to go ahead and input 2. I'm going to select OK. Now that means I've duplicated 2 additional rows. And if I continue to scroll, I see that all the information that I've inputted now duplicates onto these additional rows, which saves you a lot of time. Now your staff member title. This information should be the title that you use at your LEA or school. So I'm going to just input fourth grade teacher. Now, the FTE percentage represents the total amount of time a staff member spends performing a role. I'm going to type 50 because the teacher is in the role of fourth grade teacher half of the time. For the federal role, we have the drop down here, and these are the permitted values, and I'm just going to select teacher elementary. Now, if you need additional information, we do have the technical guide. In the appendix, I'm going to scroll all the way down. We have the definitions of the different staff categories to assist you. Now, I'm just going to take a pause for a brief moment, and I'm going to just run through a scenario, and I want to see how well everybody paid attention. So just hold on for one moment while I put it on the screen. Okay, so here's the first scenario. School 123 hired several bus companies to take students on field trips throughout the school year. Should the LEA report the employees to the bus company? Everyone just take a couple of moments and just type your response in the question box. Okay, so not everybody responded, but that's okay. So again, the scenario is School 123 hired several bus companies to take students on field trips throughout the school year. Should the LEA report the employees of the bus company? The answer would be no. You're going to exclude employees of contractors who provide a non-regular service. So before we talked about contractors who provide regular service. So this will be non-regular service. So these are staff that are furnished by contractors or on or off site to provide service. So we would include examples would be carpenters, electricians, working for a firm hired to refurbish a school building, etc. But if the bus company was hired during the regular course of business, for example, to transport students to and from school, then yes, you would include those drivers in your data collection template. Okay, so now I've duplicated my staff member. So I'm going to say that in addition to her being a fourth grade teacher, she's going to also be a ninth grade science teacher. And oops, see, it's going to let me know if I make an invalid entry. It cannot be, that's too large of an amount. So now I'm going to have in my drop-down menu, now since she's a ninth grade teacher, she's not going to be elementary, so she's going to be secondary. Now here for the curriculum. So now we have teaching curriculum and years of teaching experience. So she's an elementary teacher, and she doesn't have a specialty area, so she's just going to be elementary education. And for the secondary, I'm going to say that she's an art teacher. She's science. Years of experience, I'm going to say she has 10 years of experience in both categories. Now, as I continue to scroll, I notice, though, that under staff member education and certification information, if I continue to scroll, I have a lot of red. A lot of red. Now, I need to report at least one of her credentials. So either her associate's, bachelor's, master's, or doctoral information. So I'm going to say that she has her bachelor's degree, and she received it from University of Maryland, and her field was education. Now, once I've completed these 3 pieces, I notice that everything else is white except for down here when I go to license certification status. But before I get all the way down there, I also need to make sure that I also put information in for the second row. Now, if she has received the same credentials or the same, so say she has 2 bachelor's degrees, I don't have to put it on 2 separate rows, but I can. But if I just want to put it on 1 row, I would just indicate it with just a slash. And since the same is true for both, I could do the same as well. Now I'm going to continue on. And I'm required to complete license or certification status. And she does not have a license or certification, so I'm going to put no. If she was a related service provider, I would indicate yes. And then down here, I would indicate her license or certification field or subject, the certification provider, and the license expiration date as well. Now also, don't forget we have the Samples tab here. So if I go to the Sample tab, I can look how does OSSI want me to report information if the person is at, say, 2 different LEAs or if they're in 2 different roles. So if the staff member is in 2 separate roles, you need to duplicate the row. If the staff member is at more than 1 school, you're going to need to duplicate the row. If I continue on, I see, again, this is how OSSI would like for me to indicate whether or not there's the degree is in the same field or the same level. So if they have 2 master's degrees, you can put it on the same row. 2 doctorate degrees, you can put it on the same row. And here, OSSI is providing me an example of when the license is, once the staff member, if they have more than 1 license, OSSI is providing that information for me to know how I should input that information. Now I'm just going to go back and talk a little bit more about FTE percentages. I'm going to go back to the collection because it's a big part of it and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So if you have a staff member that serves multiple roles, each row should be represented in a separate row in the template. The FTE percentage should represent the percentage of time the staff member spends in each unique role. Full time should be reported as 100. Half time should be reported as 50. Now I'm going to give an example. This might be a little tricky. So we're going to have the example of Mr. Jones. So Mr. Jones has 3 roles at his LEA. He is a grade 3 teacher, he's a school administrator, and he is a grade 8 teacher. Mr. Jones works 6 hours a day. He works 1.5 hours as a grade 3 teacher, 3 hours as a school administrator, and 1.5 hours as a grade 8 teacher. What is Mr. Jones' FTE percentage for each role? So I'd like for everyone to just take a minute, think about it, and then let me know your response in the chat box. So I'm back, and we have someone who gave a correct answer. 2 people who gave us correct answers, so yay. Okay, so the answers, grade 3, 25%. School administrator is 50, and then grade 8 is 25. Okay, so now I also want to go back to teaching curriculum and years of experience. So here I have the years of experience as 10 in both of these examples. Now, something to note about when you're putting in the years of experience. 1, you're not going to include the current year when you're calculating the years of experience. Do not round up the years for teaching experience. So if you have a teacher that has taught for 2.5 years, you're only going to report the teacher as having teaching experience for 2 years. And with that, I'm going to give another example. Ms. Smith has taught at school ABC since November 1st, 2015. In this 2016-2017 faculty and staff data collection, how many years of teaching experience should be reported for Ms. Smith? And again, this is based on the enrollment audit date, which is October 5th. I'm giving you a big hint here. So this is a really quick answer. Just take a minute and just reply in the chat box. All right, so that was the easy one. Everybody got it correct. So it's 0. Yay, you guys are paying attention. Okay. So also I want to note, if you have a staff member who works at the main office, you're going to put NA. So for the school name, you're going to put NA, and the school code, you're going to put NA. If you have a staff member that teaches an online class, report the school code associated with that online class. Okay, so now we have gone through the faculty and staff roster, teaching curriculum and years of experience, staff member education and certification information. And again, this is going to be reported for all of your staff as long as they fall into those categories. This presentation is also, again, in the handout portion of this webinar and will be on OSCE's website within the near future. You guys will receive communication regarding that. This webinar is being recorded and will also be placed on the website as well. So the next and final section of the template is the special education percent of time and ages served. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Valia Rose.
The special education percentage of time and ages served section is specifically for special education teachers, special education paraprofessionals, and support staff who serve students with disabilities. So that includes audiologists, physical therapists, psychologists, anyone in that kind of position. But this area here, this portion of the template, specifically references the amount of time that those staff members spend with this special population, and it's for ages 3 to 21. So in terms of federal requirements, we report based on students and children within those age ranges. So that means that if a teacher or staff member serves a student with a disability who is younger than 2, that information would not be recorded here. And similarly, if a staff member served a student with a disability older than 21, again, that information wouldn't be recorded here. I know there have been some questions in the past about whether or not LEAs are required to report here, but if you can just think about students for whom you receive special education funding, then those are the types of students that we're reporting on, and therefore the teachers and staff members who serve them. So the special education percentage is for a given row, which specifies a given role, federal role in curriculum. So curriculum would be special education if it were a teacher. What percentage of the time that staff member serves special education. So if a teacher is a special education teacher in an inclusion environment, and this teacher serves special education students exclusively, then this number would be 100 in the special education percentage category. But then within that, we'd like to disaggregate that by age groups, and these age groups were aligned with federal reporting requirements. So the percentage of time spent serving students with disabilities who are ages 3 to 5 versus 6 to 21. So it's possible for someone to report, or even a teacher to report, a special education percentage that's less than 100. And that would be if the teacher serves students outside of the age groups, or if a teacher did not serve special education students exclusively. I think we can go to a scenario which we are putting up. All right. Ms. James teaches at School 123 Elementary School, serving students starting at age 5. Ms. James has taught at School 123 since January 2014. Ms. James is a special education teacher and a grade 5 general education teacher. Ms. James's youngest student is 7 years old. In a day, Ms. James spends 4 hours out of a 6-hour workday teaching students with disabilities and 2 hours a day with general education students. Using the technical guide, which we provided in the webinar and was provided via email, answer the questions below. What are Ms. James's years of teaching experience? What is her federal role? What is Ms. James's special education percentage of time? And how should that time be divided between the ages 3 to 5 category and 6 to 21? Okay, a couple of folks have answered, and someone has posed another question. In terms of years of teaching experience, 2 years of teaching experience, the federal role is teacher elementary. And we didn't state this specifically, but for curriculum, this teacher would appear on 2 different rows. One would be for general education, and the other would be for special education, so that the teacher's time could be reported appropriately in each place, and the percentage of time relative to the specific role. Special education percentage of time is 67%. In the age category, since Ms. James's youngest student is 7 years old, all of the time would be placed in the 6 to 21-year-old bucket.
All right. Thank you, Celia. So we have, let's say we have completed the template, and we want to submit it to OSFI. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save it. I'm going to say 2, 3. Okay, so I've now saved it to my desktop. I have access to the faculty and staff QuickBase application. So when I go to the faculty and staff QuickBase application, I scroll down and I see the Upload LEA spreadsheet. I'm going to select the Edit button. And when I do that, it's going to be already pre-populated with my LEA code and my LEA name. And I'm going to upload it under the consolidated faculty and staff section. So I'm going to choose my file. It's saved onto my computer. I'm going to select it. I'm going to say open. And now I see the file is here, and I'm going to select save. Now, when I hit save, it brought me back to the main page, and I can see the consolidated faculty and staff template I've uploaded here. If I wanted to, I can also click on it, and it will download and open. So that's what you're going to have to do to submit it to OSSI by the deadline, which is July 7th. And if you do not have access to this QuickBase application, please let us know by sending us an email to ossi.data@dc.gov. And now we just have some tips and reminders. So if you have a staff member that serves multiple roles or is in multiple schools, please represent that with a separate row. Do not drag data from cell to cell. Instead, duplicate the row or copy and paste. If data are required and are missing within the cell will highlight in red. And please include a staff member's alias or maiden name. This information helps OSSI in verifying certification. If you have any questions, please type them in the question box. I know we have been responding to them as you have been pinging us in the question box. So again, if you have any additional questions, we will stay on the line until 3 and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for joining us for the 2016-2017 Faculty and Staff Data Collection Training. And stay on the line while we respond to the rest of your questions.